Hello and welcome to Hardcast. Let's see what we can find out about our captain by cutting his friggin' foot off. I'm Humphrey Earn.
And I'm Christian Claus.
Lifeline. Give me Armor Hunters. Alright, so first and foremost, what's your thoughts on Valiant's first true event?
What do you mean true event? Wasn't the Harbinger Wars their first event?
It was, but I always felt it was very casual, I guess.
It wasn't good enough for you?
No, it's a little too casual for my tastes.
Okay.
And honestly, we're not done yet either, in that sense. We gotta go through all the tie-in stuff.
Ugh.
So, but what's your thoughts on the core story?
I liked it. I mean, I was kind of, once again, not really looking forward to reading it because I just have a lot of other stuff to do now, like a lot more important stuff, somewhat, I guess you could say, than reading comics. So when I opened up this comic, I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Just get through these 193 pages. And but then I started reading and I actually got really, really into it. Like, I think this was just a good comic. Like, it was a good comic, good storytelling. It all just felt right. I didn't like notice the time kind of passing. I was just really engrossed by the whole thing. Just like, with Rye or something like that, where I would just constantly, I'd just be reading to the next. I wanted to find out what happened. It was interesting. The stuff that was happening was cool. They kind of did a nice blend of exposition and action. It seemed very natural. It felt like something that, obviously this feels very much like a movie. This could be a perfect movie if they wanted to make one. And it just felt great. It just felt really good. It felt very classic. I didn't have any problems with it. I was just so this is a good comic. This is one that I would like to read. This is one that I would recommend to other people.
Awesome.
Yes.
So, I pretty much agree. So the only thing for me...
All right, podcast over. Let's wrap up then.
Now, for me, the only thing would be... because again, and I still remember the events from the tie-in books. So so for me, reading this, it felt a little bit kind of like pieces were missing. Like...
but that was the same... Wasn't it the same thing with... was it Unity something?
Right, yeah, it was Unity Volume 1 and Exo Manowar Volume 5.
Right, where that whole thing happened when the ship landed in the ocean, where there was like a whole story part that you were talking about how it was so like missing it, but I didn't even notice that there was a jump in the story. Yeah, this is what I mean, is that I don't feel anything is missing.
All right.
I feel like the story has been told perfectly. It does not need any more. Obviously, you could show different sides, and literally, if they do just retell the same story from a different character's perspective, I'm not going to be a very happy person in those podcasts. But because it's just a waste. It's like why tell the same story again? But if they then give us a new insight, and if it's a completely different side. Because like I don't really care what like Ninjak and Gilad were doing, like parallel to this whole story.
And even then you want like the next volume.
God damn it. See, that's the thing. Like they came in perfectly. Like we know, obviously if this was a movie or something like that, you'd have to set up the characters and stuff like that. But we know that these characters exist in the world. So for us to have them just kind of jump in and be like, oh, we're here now. It's like, okay, great. Of course, it can't be a Deus Ex Machina kind of thing, but if they're introduced early enough in the story, say like, okay, Gilad and Ninjak are part of this, Bloodshot is part of this, and then they can come up in the heat of the moment at the end. That's fine. But I don't need to know about like their side of the story. I don't need to see them fighting the hounds. I don't need to see them doing all this extra stuff because they played their part in this bigger story, and that's all that I need to know about. Because everything else, that's just filler. It feels like.
No, you're right in that sense. So, but in this case, it's more set up. Like, I don't think it'll be as bothersome as with Harbinger Wars.
Okay.
So, where it really was, because there everyone was kind of on the same spot all the time.
Yeah.
So, but here it's more like, it takes, for example, Bloodshot. I mean, he disappears basically for a whole issue.
Yeah, exactly. It was,
so that's
kind of weird that, I mean, they just basically said, like, yeah, he probably didn't survive. And that was like the end of it. And I was like, come on, guys. Of course he survived.
Exactly.
But he really was not mentioned for like over an issue until at the end when he came in and was like, hey, guys.
So, sorry I'm late. Traffic was murder. Honestly, I hope for the film, like, I'd love it if they can kind of make him a bit self-aware with those lines.
Yeah. Like
So,
a kind of an Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of guy.
yeah, well, just getting those lines. If it's kind of like a remnant of his whole like false memories thing, making him like part of his own like the star of his own movie all the time.
Oh, jeez.
So, but yeah, again, not really a spoiler in that sense because the information was in the book in this book here on page. Let's see here. Yeah, on page 139, you see the checklist.
Scrolling.
So all the issues of all the series that are tied together.
Oh, nice.
So,
geez, that's a lot.
yeah, so you see, so we're gonna get the Bloodshot and Harbinger tie-in.
Yeah.
So, and you can imagine then that the Bloodshot tie-in will be his fight with that alien.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, these kind of things, I guess, would make sense.
Because we don't see anything at all except, the before and after. So that at least will be something more like, okay, there we go.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where it's like the difference between the book and the movie, where in the book, everything is absolutely described in its fullest extent possible because, you're not paying per word. But what I think Armor Hunters is basically the movie version of the book. This is the important stuff that we need to know. We know that Bloodshot had a fight with, what was his name? Ilias?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the little pterodactyl kind of dude. He had this fight with him. We know that it happened, and that's it. I mean, it's probably one of those things where it's like, it's such an amazing scene, and it's a shame that it got cut. But we had to cut it to make room for the whole rest of the whole final battle scene or whatever. So I don't know. I don't feel like it's a loss. Again, as I said, I don't feel like anything was missing here. I just felt that it was a good story, well told, and I really and just enjoyed reading the story, being a part of the story.
Yeah, no, again, I agree. So I think just with me knowing exactly what happens, as well as which we haven't gotten into really, the backstory of the Armor Hunters.
Yeah, it's a shame that they died. I mean, they kind of had to, or I mean, not all of them, obviously, but the main two kind of died. And then, of course, you have Ginger, I guess you'd call it. The way that, she is kind of still around, kind of like the happy. I mean, oh my God, my heart melted with that smile.
Yeah, that was cute.
That was so cute. But I also always I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, is she kind of like, aware of what she's doing?
Well, it's one of those, I guess it's one of those tricky things when you have these super advanced AIs.
Yeah.
Because it obviously has a personality and all that stuff. But then it's also a concept of what is justice and morality and like, what is justice to a robot?
But I really like, again, I'm going to reiterate this from, I think, the last time we met the Armor Hunters, or the first time we met the Armor Hunters. I like that they are a group of people who believe that they are doing good. I really like that because I think something like that is very important with like the villains of a story, is that they need to believe that they are the heroes of their own story. Like they are that, like the hero, our hero is their antagonist. And I haven't quite understood why they don't like the armor. I kind of understand that there's some kind of like it's basically the armor is evil or something.
Well, it's like a parasite kind of thing.
Right. And they try to eradicate it by basically, because I guess they can't identify where the armor is exactly, so they just destroy everything that the armor is at, hoping that they just destroy it. Which again, it's like an extreme point of view, but I guess we have that in Toyo Harada as well. You know, he's kind of like the less extreme version of it. You know, he's also this guy who believes he's doing the right thing, but doing the wrong thing while doing it. You know,
but looking good while doing it.
Yeah, he's like
not. These guys don't care what other people think. You know, until the last events in Harbinger, you know, he obviously wanted to keep up appearances.
Yeah, but he still did horrible things for a good cause. Like at least what he believed is a good cause. These guys as well, I mean, they're more dramatic about it. They're bigger about it. I mean, Jesus, that explosion in Mexico City is just holy shit. But, you know, that's one of those things where they still believe that they are doing what is right. And they must have gotten somewhat desensitized to that whole murder thing. I mean, they've been destroying planets trying to save the universe. And again, it's like one of those things where you just have to understand the scope of it all. And as they said, you know, what is a mere 20 million people compared to the entire universe?
Oh, no, definitely.
And I think that is a great way of looking at it. But the problem, I think, for me right now is that I don't see the armor as a threat. The armor hasn't done anything yet that would make me believe that maybe they have a point.
Exactly. The closest we get is amalgam.
Yeah, but even then, he just seems like a crazy person. Like the armor's not doing anything. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the armor is just trying to protect him. I mean, the scientists are all saying that the armor is trying to consume him and trying to overtake him. It's not healing him so much as replacing him. But part of me is just thinking like, well, how is that a problem? Like, I mean, I understand there's that whole, like the whole metaphor about that ship is that if you replace a ship part by part, each time a part gets damaged and you've ended up replacing the entire ship with new parts, is it still the original ship? You know, so I kind of feel like with Malcolm, it's just kind of like he's becoming this armor. I don't know. I guess the question here is like, what happens to his consciousness, I guess? I mean, it seems like very crazy. So it could be that that's part of the, the armor kind of fusing into him and taking control over him. But still, it's just one person.
No, I agree. And I think that's part of the thing, because for me, I was filling in the blanks of why it's a threat. So, because we do know. Yeah, we'll see that in one of the tie-ins. So, and I feel it's like when you see it there, I feel like, okay, I definitely get them. But I agree, like we should have had like a sample of that, or an explanation from the armor hunters, like maybe showing, you know, what happens to other planets, you know, besides their intervention.
Yeah, but not even then. I mean, I just feel like.
What do you mean from what we've seen?
Yeah, I feel like we should have seen something with the armor. Like we should have seen that the armor, like that Eric loses control of the armor for a couple of minutes or something like that.
Yeah, little seeds throughout the series.
Yeah, or maybe even just with the fight with the armor hunters, that the armor takes control over Eric and actually, like kills the armor hunters in a very barbaric way. I mean, it's kind of hard to say that when you're like the degrees of killing someone. But you know what I mean? Is like show that the armor is pure evil. You know, because right now I'm just feeling like, well, the armor is just getting a bad rep.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's also
that's all I can say about it.
It's also part of where it's because it's also had some, quote unquote work done, because of Livewire's involvement.
Yeah.
They mentioned that, and that's how she could solve the whole virus problem of it. Because apparently it spreads this virus just by existing.
Yeah.
That's why they went and hunted all the places he had been in the first few volumes, which I like. So they go to Rome and to I forget where it was, Ecuador or Paraguay.
Yeah.
So some that's okay, that makes sense. So I guess it leaves some kind of radiation trace or something that they can track. So stuff like that I think is interesting. But like you said, yeah, we haven't really seen anything, and as you said, not even real hint at it or something like every so often his armor doing things outside of his control. Like it has a mind of its own or its own agenda.
Yeah. I mean, just like with the Blue Beetle, we have to kind of keep this comparison with the Blue Beetle because it's also like a sentient armor.
Exactly.
And I'm not sure, I'm not too into the whole Blue Beetle lore, but from what I've seen from, the animated series and stuff like that for the Batman Brave and the Bold and stuff like that, it does have its own mind and it does somewhat control his host. And we could see that subtly. Either Jaime is talking to the beetle and discussing with it and actually arguing with it, which, it's its own comedy effect. But with Eric, we don't have that. We don't have him actually communicating with his armor. It feels kind of more like someone who has a dog that just kind of follows them around. Especially I kind of love it when the ball is just the ball of armor is just kind of hanging around him. It really does feel just like a dog just kind of waiting there, just literally just waiting and just all right, where are we going to go? Where are we going to go? So I kind of, again, I just don't feel like there's a threat here. And I feel like the armor hunters are being a little too presumptuous. And part of me is feeling well, maybe they met a version of the armor that is much more volatile than the one that we know. On the other hand, maybe we just haven't met that part of the armor yet. And I don't know if that's good because we're having this discussion now about who's in the wrong. Are the armor hunters in the wrong or is Eric in the wrong? We don't know. Who's the bad guy here? We don't know. And I'm just realizing how often we have this discussion about characters in the Valiant universe about who is the actual bad guy, which is very interesting. And I got to give kudos for that because I like that. I like the idea that you don't necessarily know who is the good guy because that makes them more realistic, more human, more three-dimensional. Good on ya.
So yeah, when they're not just all douches like Harbinger.
Right, right.
No, I agree. So, and again, it was, and again, this was also similar to what I mentioned about the first volume of Unity. It just felt very superhero-y. This definitely had all the, all the ingredients for superhero-y adventures.
Oh yeah.
So, but just going through the thumbnails right now, because I don't think we'll see it with the tie-in volumes. I was a bit disappointed there wasn't much more with Bloodshot in terms of interacting with other characters.
Yeah, but then again, if they planned on the whole next issue, which I'm assuming they would have known far ahead of time, I think they would have just left it for that,
Yeah, again, we'll see when we read it. So I just can't remember, but just kind of feels like when he You know, because it's kind of cool there seeing them getting collected.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of, okay, cool. But then it just feels like, all right, you know, there goes Exo Manowar, you know, behind Capshaw. And there's Bloodshot and Livewire. And Bloodshot just passes by Exo Manowar.
Yeah.
It just kind of feels like, because it feels almost like it's two cool characters, you know, meeting each other. And it's kind of like, all right, whatever.
Like, yeah, there's not even like a head nod or anything.
Yeah, or even a simple, you know, not even like a cheesy joke or something. Like, you know, like Eric going like, what use can this albino be? Or something like that, you know, with a target on his chest. You know, he'll you know, so he'll be an easy mark. And Bloodshot going something, I don't know what he could say. Again, you know, maybe there's something in the Bloodshot tie-in, I can't remember, we'll see. But I still kind of feel like, oh, come on, something. Especially for a fresh universe like this. You know, because this is their first meeting. So, you know, it's one thing like you don't have to do like a thing every time, like in a, you know, Marvel DC, you know, like tie-in thing.
Wait, this was their first meeting?
Yeah. If you think about it, like Bloodshot hasn't met Exo Manowar, you know, and vice versa.
Okay, well then they definitely missed an opportunity, because when I read this and that the two of them kind of just walked past each other, I assumed that they had already met.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that, but it's their first.
Yeah, because exactly, because that cannot be their first.
I was thinking through it when I said it. I was kind of like, oh, am I speaking out of my ass? But I'm like, nope, speaking out of my mouth.
That's so weird, though, because I mean, you would have to have some sort of reaction to. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, when you see a guy like Bloodshot, like even considering everything Auric has seen, you'd still think like he would, you know, raise an eyebrow or something.
I mean, I could understand that Bloodshot doesn't give a shit, because I mean that's like his thing, and also Eric has been widely reported on. You know, so him not having to ask who's Eric or who this Exo Manowar guy is understandable, because he's probably seen it on the news, and also probably talked to Livewire. She probably briefed him before they got there and stuff like that. But the fact that Exo Manowar, that Eric didn't question who this guy was that was with Livewire, I mean, just something, just a handshake, or just like, hey, what's up with you? Or, you know, something, I don't know.
Well, something, yeah. I mean, we'll see with the tie-in, but even so, you know, there should have been something.
Well, I mean, the tie-in is only about like stuff that we haven't seen yet, and we've already seen their meeting.
Yeah, true, so, unless they just expand upon it, which would still feel kind of awkward, I guess.
Right, because it would be like it's like if someone cut out an entire scene between two people talking, like, you know, someone is speaking to another person, and then in the middle of it, a huge action scene happened, and they just cut that out and made it look like it was just a conversation between the two people.
Well, I mean, maybe the tie-in will basically have like right after here. So it'll be like, you know, now that you both here, there's something I need to show you. Let's move. And then yes, Bloodshot quickly going, hey, Eric. That's what happened right after this page.
It would be so funny if they just like redo the panels from this comic and then just kind of like have an extra panel at the end where Bloodshot then stops, turns around, is like, oh, by the way, I haven't met you yet. You know, just to really just put a hat on it. It's like, oh, by the way, hi, how are you? I'm Bloodshot. Cool. I have nanites. Nice. Cool. You have a robot around your skin. That's cool. All right, let's go fight something.
Honestly, yeah, and just that too, because you know, because they kind of made a cool thing there with in the helicopter, you know, with Bloodshot asking Livewire if she can hear his nanites.
Right.
So, which is again a cool idea, and I like when those things. Of course, in this scenario, everything's been thought out, you know, in advance. You know, so it's not like with Marvel and DC when they started like connecting everything, where just certain things happen to work well together.
Right.
But here it's like, yeah, that makes sense. You know, if she can talk to, you know, like speak to machines, it makes sense that that's how she located him. You know, they probably, you know, like just listen for whatever sound they make in that sense, you know, in their like electronic kind of signature. So that's cool. But that made me think then, you know, again, not necessarily a fight between Bloodshot and Exo Manowar, though that would be cool too. But because his nanites can also kind of communicate with machines, you know, with technology, that would have been something interesting, like him saying something like, I don't like this guy. My nanites don't know what to make of him. Like they can tell, it's a technology he's wearing, but it's like a different language or something. I don't know, it sounds something. Like I didn't think of it, I didn't even write it down as a question.
Right.
But this actually became like quite a little thing here.
I'm actually looking at that panel or that page again with when Bloodshot and Livewire arrive. And it does seem like Bloodshot is immediately taken to the side by that, what's it called? Whatever security guard or army man or whatever is following the colonel. So it looks like kind of like maybe Hardcast, maybe Exo Manowar didn't have the chance to even say anything to him before he was taken away by the soldier that was following them. Yeah.
So yeah. But either way, I mean, again, it's fine, but it definitely feels like a missed opportunity.
Well, I mean, maybe that was the whole thing. They were kind of thinking about a way to make it sound make like the meeting between the two of them like really cool, but they couldn't think of a good way, so they're just like, screw it, we'll do it later.
Well, I'm sure they had a lot of issues with pacing and balance and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, this is mostly Exo Manowar related. It's about his armor. Skull Armor Hunter. So we definitely don't want to put too much focus on everyone else in the main story. So, right. But also, we are involving them, so we can't just ignore them either. So again, they did a good job, I feel. It's a lot of different elements, a lot of different scenes and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's worked out pretty well. Let's see. But what's your thought? Because we brought up that a few times when it's like real world issues and places and people. What's your thought with the whole, Mexico City destroyed?
That's pretty crazy. I mean, but the thing is, you have to, make a big bang. We have to realize what the threat really is. And obviously, blowing up an entire city of 2 million people it shows an immense amount of power. So we immediately fear them as well. We know that these people are not just, whatever. They're not just talking out of their asses. They actually have the weaponry to back it up. So we can understand the way that they act, especially like, I mean, they're basically overpowered with their entire. I mean, what is the army going to do to a ball that comes down and sends electrical shock through all mechanical whatever and then explodes? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I was pretty, shocked is I think too big of a word, but I was amazed at that scene of the whole city just going up in a ball of light.
Yeah, well, it's done well. I mean, we get to see Mexico City, all nice, sunny, and then gone.
Yeah. I did love that reporting above it. Like, we're assuming that everyone's okay. Juxtaposed with this woman pleading for her husband or brother or whatever to be alive. So I mean, it's crazy, but I think it was a necessary storytelling necessity. Just to kind of show. I mean, it's just like with the red shirts. I mean, you have to show the threat before you can really, understand the enemy.
Oh, absolutely. So again, that's, I'm not upset in that sense. It just, for me, I don't know, it just gets this whole thing when I'm not sure how to describe it. It just kind of feels like, when it's sort of an American produced story. and then like, you know what, fuck Mexico City. I mean, obviously, I don't think that was the reason for it. That they don't like Mexico City. It's just this kind of. I'm assuming it's just kind of. I mean, the armor hunters gave a reason. I guess it was the most densely populated city from their like section in the orbits, so they couldn't hit like an Asian what's called country, I guess, or an Asian city.
Right.
So that makes sense. But for me, it's just because I can't remember now how much fallout comes from this. Because this is one of those things where it's like so ludicrously big what happened. I mean, because they give some mention about a lot of Mexican refugees now, escaping. So I was going like fleeing, crossing the border. Right. So, but I can't. I mean, we'll see with the tie-ins and whatever comes later, but I can't remember much fallout coming from this, and I think maybe that's the thing, reading it now. Because I can remember like something more about like, so how's Mexico doing now? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because this is like a big thing. This isn't just like this isn't like the classic superhero stuff where there's a big fight and a lot of collateral damage, but everyone's fine. This is like 20 million people more or less dead, and all this infrastructure, all this industry. Like, I mean, this is a huge blow to any country.
Right.
So I'm just curious, I just think it would be, again, I don't want to say upsetting or so, but just be a bit, I'm not sure I want to say disappointing either, but I just feel a bit like if there's not more after this, it'll just feel a bit like it was just window dressing, just kind of like, oh yeah, let's destroy the city and let's not bring it up ever again.
Yeah, but it's like one of those things where it's hard to say if stories don't take part in the city anymore. I mean, what kind of stories other than, a villain was born out of the destruction can you really tell with a destroyed city? I mean, you can kind of mention it with, with subtle things in the backgrounds, like having more Mexican immigrants in the U.S. or that kind of leading to other problems. But I feel like something as big as this is probably somewhere on the Valiant writers board or whatever, however they write their comics. There's probably in big letters written on the whiteboard, Mexico City is broken or Mexico City is gone,
Oh yeah, I'm sure if they ever think of doing something like, oh hey, how about they flee to Mexico City?
Well, no, not like that, but I feel like something as huge as this, and when they're talking about how all the immigrants are now, or all the refugees are now moving to the U.S., it feels like that could have a social impact on the rest of the stories. I mean, a lot of the stories we do read about happen in the U.S., and I feel like these are the kind of things that, for example, Toyo Harada might have to deal with. These are the kind of things that the Harbingers might have to deal with, maybe on a level that's more on the street because they're kind of running around on the street. You know what I mean? It kind of feels like this is something that has to kind of be held over the writers' heads all the time, so that while they're writing, they have to realize, okay, this is the reality that we have created now in our universe. We have created a universe where 9/11 has now been overshadowed by the Mexico City disaster.
Oh, that's true. That's
so this is not anymore 9/11 is not anymore the biggest tragedy that happened on the American continent. So what would that world look like? And I think that is something that is also a very interesting thing to continue with. I mean, as you said, the there's like what was it? I don't know how many thousands of Mexicans were now going to the American border. Interestingly enough, by law, they are now allowed to cross into America legally as refugees. Because that's the whole thing. I mean, if you can get to the border and you have a good enough reason, if you can basically prove to them that your life is in danger, you can actually, become a refugee and cross over to the American side completely legally. So with a disaster like this, I feel like it would be very easy for Mexicans to use this as a reason to be able to go to America. I mean, all they have to do is show up at the border, knock on the door, and go like, "Are you seeing this shit?" And they'd be allowed in. So I think that would be very interesting to see how that affects the stories that are being told in the U.S.
Oh yeah, no, but for me it's mostly like I see it more on like a bigger scale political thing. Because again, because they obviously bring up a lot of this sort of guilt, for Auric in terms of, oh, they're after me. I mean, it's kind of like Man of Steel, in the sense of if Superman wasn't there, would they have come?
Right.
So it's kind of like the whole, if he has left, or whatever, then, we wouldn't have had all this trouble. So it's kind of that kind of feeling there. And I'm just thinking politically then, is the U.S. responsible then, like from the Mexican government's point of view? And actually, now that I'm thinking, I think there is at least something in the background in one of the, I can't remember which series, I think it was X-Men Manowar, that might bring it up. So it might have been brought up, but I'm not sure if it brought up more after that. We'll see.
Right. Well, that's an interesting take on it, especially because the Americans are kind of, keeping the Visigoths and, Eric as well. And now they've even made a public statement now that they are unity, that this is their group with the ship and everything. And we are now the defenders against the...
Defenders of the Earth.
Defenders of the galaxy. No, wait, that sounds right. But you know what I mean? Is I feel like this could have consequences. It should have consequences. From what I've seen so far from Valiant, I believe that they will bring this up again. And as you even said it, that they will bring it up again at some point.
Yeah, well, for me, just this isn't, like a little, like if we take like Unity Volume 2, they had the whole thing with the whole... that whole digital virus thing that what's called Silicon made, and had all those what's called can't remember what country they were in. Was it Thailand or?
Yeah, it was, or was it Philippines or something? Yeah, but yeah,
it was some East Asian country. So a lot of jungle. Like that's kind of like obviously not as big number wise. Okay, all of those people dead. Right. Who were just brainwashed and all that. But again, those things were sort of little covert missions. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
it was something that could be easily swept under the rug.
Exactly. But this is like you just can't. And I guess in a sense, this is where I'm getting like sort of not confused but unsure of myself, because it's fiction. Mexico City's still standing. It's. I'm not sure how many Mexicans even read Valiant, so I'm not sure how many would be upset about that. But that's what I feel. I just feel in universe, there should be something more happening from it. And I'll keep an eye out for it now that I was reminded of it.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. I almost totally forgot about this thing happening. When I was rereading it, I was like, all right, Mexico City's a bust.
Yeah, but that's one of those things where it's what story are you telling? And it would feel unnatural if you kept on shoehorning this whole Mexico City disaster into every single story that has happened.
Oh yeah.
That's going to happen in the future. You know what I mean? So like it's kind of like one of those things where we're not like that Mexico City was important at this point in the story, but it's not important in the future.
So yeah, no, I agree.
So I mean, just because just because that story is not being told doesn't mean that like nothing is happening in Mexico City. You know?
No, I agree. So it's I understand what you mean. So, and obviously, we could ask about what's happening in all the other places and stuff like that. I mean, like,
Right.
how's Romania, doing, after the whole ARIC, settling there?
Exactly.
I mean, that was quite a scare and weird things, so, and that I understand, but it just feels here was a big centerpiece.
Yeah.
So just something that just struck my mind.
Well, again, I want to see consequences from this. That's something that I feel could have to do directly with the characters that we are following. But all the rest, like we don't need to necessarily constantly be reminded that this tragedy happened. Again, it would be interesting to kind of see subtle background things where suddenly there are more, I don't know, wouldn't it be funny if there were suddenly more Mexican people in the background of just comics in LA and the other places that had to do with other comics or other stories that took place in the US. I think that would be kind of interesting to have subtle background things, but
well, they crash in LA.
Just to show that that the world has changed somehow. Because again, that this is the problem that I'm having. Because when you're telling me where Valiant is the universe or the world that we see outside our window, they have to do big things to push the story forward, and that will then change the way the world is outside our window. So there are people living now in Mexico City who can look out their window. They can't do that in this Valiant universe. So that's what I mean, is that at the beginning, maybe when the Valiant universe rebooted, yes, that was 1-to-1. But now I feel like a lot of things have changed. So when they did that Hillary Clinton and Faith, that Faith crossover thing, I haven't read it, obviously, because I'm not supposed to read anything before we do it on the podcast.
Well, I mean, I'm not stopping you, but yeah.
Well, I want to be true to the podcast, but anyway. But I feel like this might be something that has to be talked about in politics of this world. It's not anymore. I mean, the whole Donald Trump going against Mexican immigrants.
Are you going to give some... So if you become President Trump, so are you going to have any exceptions for the millions of refugees from Mexico now? I mean, are you still going to make the wall?
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Is like, could have Donald Trump won in a post Mexico City disaster world? Because I feel like so many Americans, I mean, we see it again and again and again with like, anytime that there's a tsunami or a flood or a hurricane in one of these impoverished countries, mostly Americans just kind of throw their cash at charities to help out. And I feel like Mexico City would be one of those things where the Americans would be like, okay, this is our refugee crisis. We have to help these people. And that's what I mean, is that I feel like someone like Donald Trump could not have won the presidency in the Valiant universe after this disaster, because the Mexicans are victims in this world now. All the refugees, all the immigrants from Mexico are now victims. And to have a guy go up there and talk about how they're all rapists and bringing drugs and stuff like that.
But it's fine now. The blast killed all of those guys.
Right, yeah, because now only the good guys are coming over. But you see what I mean? The world, it splits off because certain events happen in the Valiant universe that cannot happen in our universe, like an alien force invading us, Exo Manowar flying around, British ninja jumping around London. This kind of stuff, this is what I mean, that you can't claim that Valiant universe is the world we see outside our window, because it's not anymore. Maybe
not long ago. I mean, all the other stuff until now has been stuff that kind of like, okay, kind of I guess, contained enough somehow.
Yeah.
But it's also an interesting thing here, which they tend to do in most of these superhero comics and these worlds. What's called like, you usually never involve the president themselves,
Right.
because I think first and foremost it dates it.
Yeah.
So that's like immediately an issue. What's called, but it's oftentimes a lot of these kinds of movies. Well, but in any kind of story like this, it's usually you'll have this sort of like, not second in command, but it's a military issue. So we're seeing,
it's like the Secretary of State or something like that does it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. That's the kind of stuff we see, because that's not quite usually as known for people. So there you can easily have, just a fictional representation. You don't have to actually look at, okay, who's currently the Secretary of State?
Yeah.
So you can make a character who, heck, can be evil and stuff, and or if you want or whatever.
Well, I mean, they play around with dates anyway so much that I feel like they could just take the current sitting president and just, put them in.
Well, in this case, it would be Obama.
Well, yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, you know what I mean? It's just
thanks,
like,
Obama.
Yeah.
So well, I think robot crashes L.A.
I think that a lot of the... Because there are actual dates in these comics, and they seem to be always, in the now. So I feel like you could also just bring the president out. And, I mean, it would be interesting to see, maybe... to see like how, like, if they really wanted to make this like a realistic world, I think that would be so interesting, because it is such a small scale in some sense compared to like DC and Marvel and stuff like that. Wouldn't it be so interesting that if you'd have people at Valiant thinking about the real world effects of these, these attacks and these creatures and these superheroes and stuff like that, and kind of feel like, how would the world be politically different because of these superheroes? Like, I feel like that would be very interesting to think about if Donald Trump could have won following all of these. Like, could he have won in this Valiant world?
Well, again, here's the question: would he have even run?
Exactly, but that's what I mean. Is like,
it's way too It's diverged way too much now from being just like separate, like parallel timeline.
Yes, I know, but that's what I mean. Is like, wouldn't it be so interesting to think like, all right, who in the running for president, from the Republican side and from the Democratic side, who would have won in this climate, and then make that person president. And then, I mean, I think that would be so interesting just to kind of see all this stuff and push it all together. I mean, obviously, you're not going to, I don't know. I mean, I think it would be kind of cheap to kind of cheat your way around it and just kind of go like, oh, I want Hillary Clinton to win, so I'm going to make her the president of my comic.
Well, again, it's fiction anyways.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, I would just love for this idea that there would be like this one person or like this group of people at Valiant. I mean, this is assuming that they have like loads of money that they could just spare. But there's like group of world builders, a group of people who just sit there and read all the comics and kind of discuss and plan out how the world would change, and then basically give that list or this kind of world to the writers and said like, okay, this is the world that you're in. These are the presidents. These are the social economic powers. These are the countries who have the control over what.
Yeah, and who have interest in these areas and are affected by what's happening.
Exactly. I mean, NASA must have so much funding now because they have grabbed that robot. Think about the military budget that they must be getting for this. So that adds to this whole thing. Like, dude, look, honestly, how much money would?
Yeah, but dude, that's an interesting thing. What about? I mean, that's something that's unfortunately always common. Not enough money in education and all that. Infrastructure. So, but that would be something interesting bringing it up. But maybe it's gotten even worse now that in order to defend ourselves, from all these alien threats,
Yeah.
Now there's like even less for the actual, welfare of the people. So it's kind of making...
I mean, think about it. I mean, America can't even afford to fix potholes. I mean, I didn't even know what a pothole was. I mean, I kept on seeing it on TV, people talking about how potholes were. I had to ask my dad what potholes were. And he told me that there were holes in the street that haven't been fixed. And I was like, why don't they fix them? And they're like, because they don't have money to fix them. They don't care. It's like, but we fix all our streets in Germany. It's like, yeah, well, we care. But that's what I mean is that think about this. Like a robot landed in Los Angeles and just destroyed Los Angeles, or part of it at least.
Well, just the downtown area. Who cares? Yeah,
but that's what I mean. It's like how interesting.
No offense to my LA view or LA listeners. It's just a joke.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. It's just like it's one of those things where, like, how long would that take to rebuild? Who would be behind that? What politicians would be pushing for it? What politicians would not be caring too much?
And I agree. I think, and again, we're not
so interesting.
Yeah, sorry.
I just think that it would be so interesting just to have this kind of, again, I guess like this one document that all writers can access, like all writers for Valiant can access to see, okay, this is the world we're in. This is what we're going to be doing. This is how, these are the politicians that are currently in power. These are the important countries for this world right now. I think that would be just such an amazing thing. I mean, think about like Mexico. Now that their capital has been destroyed, completely destroyed, what if a character like Hitler for Mexico rises up?
Mexican Hitler.
No, yeah, but Mexican Hitler, a guy with a small mustache and a sombrero. But you know what I mean? It's just like, how would that impact the world? Or how about Toyo Harada? Does he use this opportunity to take control of Mexico as well?
That'd be
could that be a thing?
Well, maybe people would accept him despite, despite everything they know about him, because, he can actually help.
Exactly. This is what I mean.
So they'll be good. They'll definitely subjugate themselves to him because all right, fine. Yes, help us.
Yes, that's what I mean. It's like they're making these whole huge world things in it because these are small scale compared to Marvel and DC. I think they could actually pull this off of having this one world and making decisions about this world. Like, yes, Mexico City has been destroyed, but that affects now everyone. And that goes into the document that they create. This one Bible.
Yeah. And again,
the Valiant world.
And I think if I've understood you correctly as well, it's not, obviously we don't want it to just be a big political drama, but it's something to keep track. Stuff. Exactly. And, whenever it is, like important, like, because of this character came to be or these events happen. But yeah, just keep it in mind. It's not our world anymore. It's, I guess you said, it's the post-Mexico City destruction world. It's post-Armor Hunters.
Yeah.
So now, but yeah. Oh, that's a fun discussion, a little long on there.
I'm sorry.
No, but it was interesting. We were basically just brainstorming a whole, separate fanfic version of Valiant.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So, we discussed some stuff last time with Exo Manowar in terms of the Armor Hunters.
Yeah.
And we discussed them a bit overall. What's your thoughts on the last issue? I thought it was very interesting in the sense of...
you mean the final issue, like the whole...
the aftermath.
Aftermath?
Yeah, it counts as, if I understood correctly, it counts as a tie-in.
Okay.
Like, let's see here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it says there, it's the only issue related to Armor Hunters in October. And it says number 1, but it's the only.
Well, I felt like it was a good setup for Unity, basically.
Like even though Unity already exists, now it has a little bit more firepower and it's well known.
Right. And I feel like it's all just a setup. It's just setting up where the rest of the Armor Hunters are. Where is Gilad and Bloodshot? Where is Livewire and Exo Manowar Eric, who is who, where are they going, what are they doing? I feel like it's basically just a comic to set up the next thing, just so that then when they start with Unity Volume, I don't know what 3 it would be.
Yep.
Where they can then immediately start running. Like they can start off running. They don't have to like first explain, okay, this is where Bloodshot is. He's checking on this guy. We don't know where the 3D girl is. She's just zapping around somewhere. But we have this cool ship. So it wasn't like a interesting story wise. I mean, it was interesting to see to basically get to the new norm. To see that Livewire and Ginger have now like this connection.
They're best friends.
The fact that, yeah, and then the fact that I thought it was kind of weird. I didn't quite understand it, the whole Ninjak and Gilad thing, that video that they did.
I like that. The idea that they're basically trying to make them more what's called
marketable.
Yeah, well, I like that. Not so much in terms of marketable, but like making them like, well, it's a PR thing, making sure that the public relations are working, because they are kind of weird.
Well, again, I understand it. I feel like it feels like a natural thing that would happen, but I just didn't think it was executed well in this comic, because I didn't quite understand what they were going for here. I mean, they never really actually discussed it. Like, I didn't understand, like, is that actually Gilad, or is it an actor playing him?
No, I think it is Gilad. They mention it kind of, is that a boom mic? So then it's like, it's an early cut, and they're mentioning it's going to have a voiceover instead of having him actually speak. So I guess he's not really doing a good job. But I like the idea, because it's going to be more... especially like, when Capshaw's talking with the secretary, I guess the Secretary of State.
Yeah.
The idea of having a new acronym. Again, it's not really necessary, for us in that sense, but I like the idea that, Gate performed well in our focus group testing.
Yeah, which again, I feel like that's why I also believe, going back to the discussion that we just finished, I feel like Valiant could pull this off, the whole political side of this and socioeconomic side of this whole universe, because they've already shown it here, that they know how it works, and they know how to make it feel natural, that the Secretary of State is talking now to this colonel and be like, look, we have to change our acronym now for whatever. And we need to change it to GATE now, because...
Yeah, symbolizes security.
Because we made that decision.
We came up with the word first, and then we came up with what the letters meant.
Yeah, exactly.
Like hardcore. Yeah, no, I just kind of like it, because, again, it's this whole... it's like a whole other challenge for them. It's not just... they've done this a lot, especially in the Marvel, with the Avengers.
Yeah.
So they've had that a lot in the comics there, with, public perception of them, with people, protesting them outside and stuff like that. So so that kind of thing is interesting. So that kind of thing has been done before. But I like here where it's more like everyone's really planning it. It's very like, all right, we gotta make it all, palatable to, the world. So yeah, no, I like it a lot. Yes, because it is a bit different, and it's a very nice end to it all. It's not part of the Armor Hunters in that sense. It's its own thing. Mm-hmm. It always gets tricky with the namings of the series. But like the proper end. Before it's just the Auric in bed, again, like, it's over, But this, it ties up loose ends, and yes, as you said, it sets up the new norm.
Right.
So, I even like how it starts. We start with a civilian outlook of it, just those 3 pages. So, which is really interesting, I feel. So, and again, also as they mentioned, this robot destroyed, Mexico City. How are we going to get people to like it now?
Right. Show him that he can smile now.
But that's what I mean. It's kind of cool stuff. And even the little things like, first of all, like, showing it at, I forget her name now, but the 3D glasses, energy being,
yeah.
zapping, still being out there. So that's a very clear, simple, see. They're like, okay, she's going to come up in some form or other later.
Right.
And, even the lies as well in terms of incinerating the bodies. I always love stuff like that, especially in comics. It's done so well. Because, you have the caption and then, the image, and it's just the fact it's a lie. It just looks very good.
Well, I mean, in every visual medium that works. I mean,
yeah, but here I feel it feels more natural than just having like the voiceover. I don't know. Yeah. It's a personal preference, maybe.
Okay.
But also, like with Quartz, I don't know. It's just an interesting kind of very sad, punishment in a sense. Like, they can't seem to kill him really. It's not, but he's now been blinded because of the acid that the Bloodshot used on him.
Okay, so that's what it was. I didn't understand why he was blind.
So yeah, no, it's I'm assuming so based on what happened in the previous issue.
Okay.
So, but what's called? But yeah, it's just like this kind of sadness. Yes, blind. You're so powerful, but you're blind and you don't know what you're doing, and you're punching and nothing really happens.
Oh, Humphrey, I'm pretty sure they will find a way to make him powerful again, like an actual threat again. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I know, so yeah. So, and then Bloodshot there. Though I gotta say, I have to... Again, like, I don't like being that nitpicky, comic book guy. I mean, well, I actually kind of like being that, but usually not for these kinds of things in terms of... So wait, how long is Bloodshot working there? Because, then these other issues start where he's not there. Like, do we ever get an explanation when he leaves? Or... Because it does feel kind of like... Doesn't sound too exciting with the next Bloodshot series. It's just him guarding him.
Yeah.
So, but you know what I mean? It's little things like that where it's like, again, I don't care, but since they are making a big deal of continuity, you kind of want to, like, keep them up to snuff in a sense, or, I also like, I also like the whole Ninjak thing in that last issue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just like the fact that he laughs at it because of let's go. Let's see. As Neville says there, you sure you don't want one? We could release it after the others. So I know you insisted to your involvement remain secret, but boasting a bit of stealth on the team would be a nice feather in our cap. And I just love how Neville doesn't really see how that defeats the purpose.
Right.
Like, hey, we could show off we have a stealthy ninja.
Yeah.
And I guess like ninja there. And it's simple. It's a nice little moment, I feel. Like he's just seeing it as this marketing kind of thing. And it's just like, well, dude, that's why I'm a feather. That's why I'm an asset. No one knows that I exist. Or, no one that matters or whatever, yeah. Speaking of which, what's called? I'm going to buy some more Ninjak stuff. Ninjak comic, because there's a sale.
Ah, okay. Well, let's tell our listeners about that. Maybe they can check it out too. When does the sale end?
It ends the 25th, tomorrow of when we're recording.
Okay, so we're uploading tomorrow. So if you're listening to this today...
Oh, yeah, true, yeah.
On Thursday, the 25th, you can still check out the Ninjak sale on, Humphrey will tell you now.
Yeah, well, the Ninjak sale, Road to Rapture, ends on the 25th of May. Sale ends at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, according to this here.
Okay, then. And you can always find more of these updates on our Facebook site if you'd like to follow us there, I guess.
So, yeah. But yeah, I'm not gonna catch up there because it's there's a new event coming.
All right, and I've been kind of spying some Rye apparel on the Valiant store.
Oh,
yes.
It's just Japanese souvenirs.
When I get paid again.
It's just Japanese souvenirs that they've gotten cheap.
Yeah, exactly. No, but there's some really cool stuff. There's like really nice shirts and stuff like that. But I still feel like they could do a little bit more in the Valiant store.
Yeah, well. But yeah, I think that's about it. Like art-wise,
all right.
What's called? We've had him before here. Let's see, Doug Braithwaite. So like doing Exo Manowar as well. So it's good. It's good art. Good, decent. But I couldn't help but laugh a little bit at this one panel. Let's see here. Actually, I think I wrote down. On page 72. When
okay.
Yeah, no, it's just when what's called Arakif comes down to what's called his settlement and like starts destroying all those dogs or those hounds.
Yes, the one where he rips open the face of the hound.
Yeah, good dog. Again, it's like I just think. I mean, it's kind of funny on its own, but I think the speech balloon makes it worse in a sense.
Good dog.
Yeah, it just doesn't fit.
It's so weird. I mean, it's like one of those things where you're watching a video of someone do that and then you pause it at the exact wrong moment.
Yeah, because you're right in. Yeah,
that's what it feels like. It's just no.
I mean, again, I get it. I mean, it definitely is a face of sort of like anguish. Kind of like ah, but it just overall it just feels more like oh. Like he looks very surprised.
It feels very weird.
Oh shit! I didn't mean to like rip it open like that. Like oh shit.
Yeah, like oh shit. that is what it looks like.
Again, Doug, you're great. So this is just some good fun. So, but it's just something I kind of felt. And also overall, again, he's a good artist and all that. But I feel sometimes there's a bit too much. Like sometimes the faces are a bit too static. A little too emotionless. Again, not all the time. So it's not like some artists I've seen who, like always kind of just have this stoic expression. Mm-hmm. Like I'm just going through here right now, and I'm like seeing like he's got definitely a range. And some characters like Bloodshot, it works, of course. But I don't know. Just in general, sometimes I just feel it's a bit too much of character just kind of having this kind of like neutral expression.
Right.
But again, I guess it's not really much of a critique, just a nitpick, I guess. And even then, it's like I said, no, it's not all of it.
Yeah, I can't really say anything. I didn't notice anything on the art other than, of course, that one panel where it's just...
Oh, right. I had one...
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, I have one last thing, even though we're kind of over time in a sense.
Way over time, yeah.
But did you feel it was... there's a Harbinger tie-in, so we'll get to see some stuff with that. But did you feel like, kind of like we were missing some characters in a sense? Like, not that every single character had to get involved. But I guess kind of thinking like,
exactly.
Nothing like Archer and Armstrong, just like, again, not involved in the final fight. But just a little thing like...
No.
Like, maybe something like maybe they're in one of the places where... No?
No.
Again, not like a proper thing, just like a cameo, just to show that.
No, because even then, if you add a cameo, that complicates things. Because again, this is a comic, so it's not just like a cameo. It's not just a Hugh Jackman saying "fuck off" or whatever in X-Men Origins or whatever it's called, the new class thing.
Oh, yeah, first class.
Because if in comics you have this cameo, then you're asking yourself, well, why aren't they joining the final fight? Because if they're somehow affected by this thing, even if it's just a random thing, like they're in Rome at the moment when the hounds hit and they're able to fight, at some point they must be thinking, that was weird. Yeah, first class, whatever. But yeah, you know what I mean? Is that if
Well, I thought more like way further away. Like they're not even in the U.S.
No,
I was thinking like maybe they are in one of the places where these like maybe instead of like sending what's called like Gilad and Ninjak after some of these places where they were sending hounds and stuff. Maybe they were doing something totally unrelated.
I just said that they were being Rome. Are you not listening to me?
I guess I missed that part then. Sorry.
No, because I was saying like they could be in Rome, but that's what I mean. Is like
yeah, but right when you said it now again, you actually cut off right. I said they would be in. So I guess I just missed it somehow.
Okay, well they would be in Rome. Did
when
you
in
hear
Rome.
That one? Okay, when in Rome, they attack the beast. When the beasts attack and they defeat them, at some point they must be thinking like, well, what happened? Like, why are these things coming from the sky? And then us as the reader would be thinking, well, why aren't they in the final battle?
No, but I think I just think it would be a whole thing that they somehow didn't because they're not like they couldn't travel that fast. Like all of this stuff is happening pretty quick.
What are they doing? No, but what are they doing at the time now anyway? Aren't they kind of like split up or something like that? Don't they have like some sort of relationship problems, the two of them?
Well, no, I mean it's the whole thing with it was the Bloodshot that the crossover last time.
Yeah, but see, I mean that's what I mean. Is like do you know what this is? This is when Super Smash Brothers for the Wii came out, and you sat there talking about all the characters that could have been in this game.
No, but again, for me,
that's what this is.
No, for me, it's just ninjas.
No, Humphrey.
Like
Humphrey,
Quantum and Woody too would have been
no.
a fun cameo with like them kind of. Should we do something? Nah.
No, Humphrey. No, you're just basically not happy with what you get. That's all that this is. You get Super Smash Brothers, which is an amazing game, and you're just like, I wish I could have like 5 more Fire Emblem characters. I mean, obviously you would never say that, but like you'd have all these obscure characters that you want to see in it. And that's what this is. I mean, I'm just so happy with who is in this. I mean, I'm happy with Gilad, obviously, Bloodshot, and Livewire. I think this is a good team. They work together. That makes sense. We don't need to add other people. We don't need to add the characters that you like, or you don't need to mention them because they're doing their own thing. We're focused on us. This comic was dense enough as it is. We don't need to add cameos to this. I mean, I think it's a different thing in a movie than in a comic. I think that's why you see more cameos in movies and TV shows than in comics, because in comics you actually have to take time out. You have to give them space. In a movie, you can extend. No, but you can extend a movie by like a minute to give a Hugh Jackman fuck you. You can give the Stanley cameo. You can do that stuff. You can extend a movie by a minute just to show this character or this cameo. But you can't really do that in a comic because you have a set amount of pages that you're supposed to deliver. So every single time you're taking up valuable property that could be taken away from the story just so that Humphrey is happy. And I doubt that the writers at Valiant are worried about what makes you happy.
So, no, I see what you mean. I just wanted to bring it up as a fun thing. I wasn't expecting you to get so aggressive about it. Though you are correct with the Smash Bros.
I'm not aggressive, Humphrey.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
So, no, you're definitely correct with the whole Smash Bros. Thing. Unless they have every single asset ever made in every game in there, it just wouldn't be enough.
Exactly.
But what's called? But yeah, no, for me it was just kind of like I said, I just would have liked some what's called? Yes, a little bit more since it's kind of a world thing. So it just would have been kind of nice having a bit of a okay, there they are.
Yeah.
But again, that's that's really as far as it went for me. It wasn't like, they should have been in the final fight or something. Just no, yes. But either way. But yeah, I think that's it then. To bring that up then in that sense. But that was Armor Hunters.
Yes, that was Armor Hunters.
So that was the 36th episode of Hardcast, detailing Armor Hunters. For more content from me and Chris, follow us on Twitter at Humphrey_Erm and at Christian D. Claus. And you can listen to our entire backlog of episodes on podbean.com/ValiantHardcast. Remember to like us on facebook.com/ValiantHardcast.